Samir Bannout at the 1983 Mr. Olympia versus Shawn at the 1994 Mr. Olympia when he was placed second to Dorian Yates. Many fans have been arguing about who the best 212 bodybuilder ever. Shawn, who is widely considered as one of the greatest bodybuilders in the 90s and one of the uncrowned Mr. Olympia contenders, believed that he was the best 212 bodybuilder of all time, claiming that he would beat the likes of Flex Lewis, Lee Labrada, Muhammad Makkawi, Lee Priest, and Samir Bannout, but also thought that Samir would be the toughest rival in his 1983 shape. This is what Shawn said regarding this issue.
One that could be in that mix would be the 1983 Mr. Olympia, Samir Bannout. Samir Bannout arguably was one of the best bodybuilders, 212 pounds and under, for that one given year in 1983. He was phenomenal front to back, and on that given year could arguably be one of the guys that no one could beat. So he's high on my list of very competitive bodybuilders that were at the very pinnacle, and he did get acknowledged and recognized for his efforts. And I believe I was at my peak in 94, and I believe I was near my peak in 96. My peak years were 92 to 97. That competition would come from the 1983 physique of Samir Bannout. So he's going to get the nod as the first runner-up in the 212. And I would have to say that James Flex Lewis would be battling it out with Lee Labrada for the bronze, and pulling up fourth place. I would probably lean more towards Muhammad Makkawi, and then I would go with maybe a Lee Priest. So there you have it, the greatest of all times.
So let's see how things go between Shawn from 1994 Mr. Olympia, where he was at his peak as he claims, and Samir Bannout's best shape ever at the 1983 Mr. Olympia. The front double biceps shows that it's a battle of aesthetics and symmetry more than size. Shawn was known for having incredible biceps development with these striations that look like feathers in his right bicep. He can also hit the vacuum pose, which adds to the beauty of his pose. Samir was not known for having the best arms out there. Both have wide chest, lats, and small waist, which grant them both an impressive V-taper. They both have impressive quads, but Shawn has the more complete and the more massive thighs overall. Samir's front lat spread photos are scarce from this contest, but shockingly enough, it seems that he can still hold his own against Shawn, although there are more than 10 years time difference between the two contests. It goes without saying that Shawn has the more complete package, but imagine Samir competing in his prime in the 90s and not in the 80s. Shawn's physique looks perfect. The rounded chest, the ripped shoulders, the massive arms, the small waist, the V-taper, and the incredibly ripped and separated thighs. The side chest is one of Samir's most powerful poses, because he shows how complete, ripped, and massive his chest is. Notice the size of his chest in comparison with that of Shawn. Shawn obviously has the more complete shoulders, the better arms, and the better ripped and separated thighs, but Samir's chest looks incredible in this pose, and we will see how powerful his chest is in the most muscular pose. The back double biceps might be among their most powerful poses. Samir is known for having among the best back areas of all time, and should always be mentioned with the likes of Ronnie, Dorian, Lee Haney, and Phil Heath. Notice how thick, dense, and detailed his lats are. Notice the size of his traps and how they perfectly connect with the rear delts and the striated lats. He was known for his powerful lower back, or the so-called cedar tree. Shawn, on the other hand, had one of the most aesthetic, symmetrical, and ripped backs of his era, but he lacked the size and the width to match his main rival back then, the Shadow, Dorian Yates. Shawn definitely has the better ripped and striated glutes and hamstrings, and has the more massive thighs overall. I don't have rear lat spread pictures for this matchup. The abs and thighs shows that both have incredibly ripped and symmetrical abs with narrow waist. The lats perfectly connect with the midsection, but Shawn definitely has the better thighs overall with size and conditioning advantage. I used to love this most muscular picture for Shawn. It's true that he wasn't that wide in the chest and the shoulders areas, but he used to make it up with the superior conditioning and the unmatched muscles maturity. Notice how ripped and striated his physique is. Look at the veins and the striations in his chest, shoulders, arms, and phenomenal thighs. Samir, on the other hand, looks very impressive with his powerful traps, ripped shoulders, and striated chest. As I said in Arnold vs. Samir matchup, Arnold was the greatest in the 70s, but when comparing him to the 80s top bodybuilders like Samir, you will notice that Samir has the more complete package, due to the time difference and the progress of the supplements these athletes used to consume. And the same goes here with Samir vs. Shawn. Samir might have been one of the greatest in the 80s, but he would never stand a chance against one of the 90s greatest bodybuilders and one of the uncrowned Mr. Olympia contenders such as Shawn Ray. It's worth mentioning that Shawn interviewed Samir at the 2017 LA Fit Expo, during which Samir admitted that Shawn should have won the Sando and that his physique was better than half or more than half of the Olympia winners.
You know, I've got to go back a little bit. You came out short, even though you and I are on the short side.
Right.
From my perspective, you're really worthy of the Sando. And I've always said that repeatedly in many interviews because I mean it.
Thank you.
We should make a special Sando for Shawn.
We'll get there.
And I'm going to talk to Eric Weeder, see if we can manage to do that, because this man is a real bodybuilder.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And so, you know, it was a great feeling winning the Sando.
Yeah.
And you know yourself, you were this close, you tasted it. Unfortunately, you should have got it.
I appreciate
it's always it's wonderful to be among the best
Elite.
ever.
13 in 52 years.
Yes, there are 13, and you know, I'm honored to be part of it. And I'm like more honored to be with my buddy standing here with Big Shawn, who I consider better than half of them, or more than half of them.
I appreciate that. From 1983 till now, we're going to do this Reunion of Champions seminar and find out what's been going on with our other champion bodybuilders. But for one of the greats, Samir Bannout, Mr. Olympia, here at the LA Fit Expo 2017, I'm Shawn Ray, MuscularDevelopment.com.